actually. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I am happy. It's a Monday, and it's a bit about 2 weeks before I officially turn 43 years of age. So this year I'm 43. I was born um, in November 1979, and I was born at a village. And when my mom tells me the story, I was born at home. I didn't go to hospital. Or my mom didn't go to hospital. I was birthed at home. And the interesting thing about my day of birth is that on the same day, my dad was in trouble with the special branch police, and they had come looking for him. I don't remember what the reason was. In the villages, they had the habit of walking into people's households and just ransacking them for whatever reason. It seems on this day they were looking for my dad. I don't remember what he had done. So they were ransacking the home looking for him, and my mom was pregnant, almost due any time, I guess. And after the police left, they couldn't find my dad. But after they left, my mom went into labor. And apparently she called the neighbors. In fact, some of the neighbors were around because the police were making a lot of drama. So some of the neighbors were around. So my mom went into labor, and one of the neighbors called another neighbor. So then they assisted my mom to give birth to me. So that's how I was born. um, so when I have conversations with teens, we do this a lot where they talk about the day they were born, and in my case, it really defines a lot of things in terms of how I take on life and how I show up in spaces, and also just that courage to not be afraid to do something that is different, that might be outside of the norm. So that's how I was born. So my mom always says this when I talk about my age. I would say that I'm 43 years of age, and my mom would say, no, actually 44, because if we count the olden way, you've been 43, is now coming to an end. In November, you're starting 44 years of age. So, so we always argue with my mom because I don't want that definition. I want the one that we do now that says I'm 43. um, I had a lovely conversation with my coach yesterday, and it was really about everything around business and around just us in growth and development. There's a task that she's giving us, which is us just detailing some of the great things that we have achieved. The interesting thing about me and teen coaching is that I was introduced to working with teens at a very young age. My parents were teachers, they're now pensioners. My parents were teachers. My dad was part of a cultural club at my village, so he would take me along to his meetings. And I'm the kind of child, as a toddler, my dad would take me with him everywhere he went. As such, as a 5-year-old, a lot of my memories are me sitting in some meeting, looking at their faces. 5, 6, 7 years of age, I was that person sitting in grown-up meetings, and for some reason, I wasn't a problematic child. I would just sit. I would observe them going about discussing their sessions and their meetings. And then the interesting thing happened is that when I was around 12 years of age, my dad stopped working in that cultural club. I was already infused in it, so then I kind of walked in quite easily. And what we would do over December holidays would be to get young people to do drama skits, choirs, choristers, dance, and I was staying between the villages and a township. So I noticed that some of the dance moves delay between the villages and the township. So then my thing was to teach new things to this group of young people, and so that's how I got involved into community work. From then onwards, it just kept finding me, or I'll just get drawn to it, or I'll go to a meeting somewhere and they'll be needing a teen and a person to volunteer for some teen related stuff, and I'll just be part of it. So I've always been drawn to it. One interesting thing about it is when I moved to Cape Town, I think it was around 2006, I was looking for a community church to be part of. And I remember I went to visit one Sunday, and then on the second Sunday, we were all forced to stay inside because there was a youth meeting. And I was like so annoyed because those meetings, they take forever. So in that meeting, they couldn't agree on who to choose for to be a youth leader, and also the ones that they were choosing already had other things and it was a big church. They already had other things that they were busy with, and then eventually I was tired and I wanted to go home, and the things that they were fighting about were things I couldn't do. So I found myself just raising my hand and saying, listen, I can do this. I've been youth leader for the longest time in my life, so just allow me to do it, and then we can discuss the specifics in the next meeting next weekend. I was new in the church. No one knew me at all. Only I think only one person knew me. So they didn't know me at all. But also they couldn't, they wanted to choose new faces so that people can try different things. So they had no choice but just to say yes to me because I was volunteering, and also I really just wanted to get things done and go home because I could do that. So that's how I became a leader at that particular community. So hence I'm saying I've always been drawn to these spaces. And then from there onwards, because of Cape Town, this church community we were using was within a school. I was worried about the school kids. Uti, are they fine? So that's me. Any space that I get to, I check. Are kids here fine? Do they need any interventions? Are kids okay emotionally? Are kids, do they know what they need to study? So I've always been that person. So I think within a year or so, I kind of adopted that particular school we were teaching at. Went to this principal and I asked the principal, listen, I work in a CSI field. Can I adopt your school? And I adopted that school. Then I spoke to my friends who were scientists and architectures, and I said, listen, let's provide a maths and science thing at this school, and then I'll infuse with my team coaching type of flow. And it was a huge success because my thing was I was noticing that Black kids were not choosing pure maths. Based on conversations I was having with them, they were afraid of mathematics. They were afraid of science. I was like, hang on, guys, that can't be the reason why you're not choosing pure maths. So then our project, or the project that I came up with, was a science and maths related project, but with a different twist in different ways because I'm a creative person. That was a huge success. And our goal was to increase the maths intake for that particular school for pure maths, so that we move the kids away from maths literacy. It was a huge success because a huge majority of our kids got taken by Shoko, UCT, after when they got to grade 10, because our goal was to get them to grade 10 and then start again. And then unfortunately, a new principal came, and then that new principal just didn't want, and you know how it's like, so we kind of had to stop. But for 2 years, we were able to pilot a very magnificent project with the kids, and we never lost any of the kids, as in every Saturday we would meet, we would have a class full of about 30 to 50 kids all the time. We never had issues with kids not showing up on a weekend based on how we tailor that program. So just an example. So teen coaching then came about when I resigned. Oh, I then went to, I don't know why I'm talking about my life today, maybe you'd like to know. And then after that project, I was still working at Adam Gray. I was working with Adam Gray Office Foundation, and I was one of the scholars development officers. We were tasked to coach and mentor teens from grade 8 to grade 12. So that was a defining moment for me because I got a chance to really test out a lot of my models, not test out, but to implement a lot of my models that were not in the corporate space because of my work in the communities level. And by then I knew what worked with teens and what didn't work with teens. It was a corporate space, and they were targeting well, your elite, top-notch type of private schools, but they would take our children from those communities and place them there and then offer them support. Great model. I still love it even now. But then when I was there, I got jealous. I got jealous of our kids who don't meet the requirements because we used to do a lot of interviews and a lot of visits in communities. I got jealous because our kids were not aware of these opportunities. Most of kids from townships and rural communities, they were just not prepared for such opportunities. And I wanted to create a program that prepared them for opportunities. I resigned and then I started my business called Maine Development Institute. But then I thought, wait a minute, I can actually, there's lots of life coaching and I don't want to be a life coach. Why can't I just be a teen coach? And that's how the teen coaching concept started around 2014, 2013. And then I managed to trademark it only around 2016 for it to be a trademarked concept. And it has grown in ways that I never thought could happen because right now it's epic the way that it is. So the reason why I'm doing this live conversation is because I'm now growing from just working with preteens and teens to working with families. And I realized this week that actually all along my work has been about families. It has always been about us having stronger families or stronger individuals within families. It has always been about us handling our emotional issues way early before our children get to an older age, so that they have less issues to fight with and grapple with. It has always been about that. But I didn't have the language and the format and the programs and the models for that because I needed to start somewhere first. And that's how my work has grown. So recently, I realized that actually, based on some of the challenges that a lot of kids are going through, a lot of it could be managed by parents. And then I realized that parents don't have support. Parents don't have an insight on what might be happening at the school level. Parents don't have a circle of support. I'll make an example. There's a parent whose child got involved into some trouble escorweni, and the parent was bullied by the teacher in that school to make certain decisions that impacted them in a negative way because they didn't know any better. They agreed. So by the time they had a conversation with me, I was like, no, hang on. That one, they bullied you in that situation. Next time, do not agree to this and that and that. And then also this year, when I was doing the roadshow, I recognized that there's a lot of information that I have around schooling, around academia, around how children experience school and the interventions parents can then be part of that's going to assist the children to have a much more easier experience at school level from preteens to high school. And then we created the parenting coaching certification. It's also one of the few as well because I always do my research all the time. There are a few parenting certifications, but I know mine is one of the few that's coming up. It's not accredited as yet, but it will be with time, similar with the other one. So I'm doing this conversation to say, I then thought I'm based in East London, and I also love the space of an online learning because it provides parents who are outside of the range to have access. But also, I'd like to, as more teen parenting coaches we bring in, I'd like to create more forums that are regional based so that parents can be supported or have a community of support. It's crucial. It's crucial. There are a lot of children who are medicated or in medication that should not be because there was no circle of support, or parents who are just pushing on their own and thinking on their own and being stressed by work because there's no circle of support, and plus all other things that I do. So then I am creating an online space for parents. It's a very structured space. What I do want to say, and it's this, let me just see. it's this I'm going to share it again. I've chosen it to be highly structured. Initially I thought 350 would be fine per month, and then I thought, okay, I'll just give half of the work that I do. Until I realized, good to know, actually I'm not the kind of person who does things in half measure, so there's a high chance that I'm going to exhaust myself because I'll probably do more and so much more. And also I don't want to feel like I'm holding back in terms of the support and the work that parents need to do. So I want to be able to give fully the value and the quality so that parents can be fully supported. So I've increased the pricing, but only from 15th of November. If you sign up now, it will still be under 350, provided you book in packages. I will share what will be covered in it. One of my biggest things is that we need to be aware that our families need work. We need to be aware that our families, they need work. I mean, emotional work. I mean, there needs to be an intention for us to recognize that some of our families have been majorly broken down throughout generations. There needs to be someone who makes a decision, Eti, I do want the next generations to be much more easier. There needs to be that person. And this can take in different forms. It can be a parent who says the children from the previous generation of my family had a certain pattern that I don't want my children to have. And therefore, I'm going to do everything in my power to learn what I need to learn so that I don't see the same patterns repeated with my children. This is the direction that I'll be taking with the platforms to say, what can this generation of parents do differently to ensure the next generation of children do not have to fight the same things. And this type of work is not easy. Also, it's not cheap work. And if I realize that I could make a mistake of pricing it low because I want everyone to come in, but it's going to cost me because it can be quite heavy and toxic work. What I do know is that this space might not be good for you if you're not ready to work through the issues from your family. It will not be a good space for you, so don't even join it. If you don't like exercises, I love exercises. I love activities like activity that you do with your children. One of the activities that I enjoy is a family vision board exercise. And a family vision board exercise is not an exercise that you do alone. You have to include your partner, you have to include your children. And a challenge that parents had in the previous years is that when a partner does not want to be part of, or when they can't communicate with their children because things are already broken down. In that situation, you have to be willing and open to say, you know what? Things in my family are not okay, and they're at this level now. What can I do to refresh or restart or recreate a proper family unit that is connected? It takes a lot of emotional work, it takes a lot of intention because we'll be going against the grain and against a pattern that is formed in certain ways in our families. It's going to speak to when we do the back to school challenge where you will get an exercise that you must do with your children. If you guys are not in talking terms, as in you and your children are just don't get along, we will then need to figure out what can you do to first form that relationship before you move to other things. And you will have to stay present in that. And by staying present, I mean you need to be able to own your part in the breakdown. You need to be able to be open to apologizing to whoever you need to. So I understand it's not easy work. So I would say it needs to be parents who are ready to do the not so easy work for you to be part of these platforms. If you are a parent of a toddler, it's a perfect time to join because you will do all the groundwork as your child grows, and you do all the background work as your child grows. If your child is already a teenager, you still can join in. If it's a young adult, you still can join in, but you'll have to do a lot of backtracking work so that you are able to catch up in particular ways. So this is the one thing that I can offer, and then we can just grow it consistently because I do know that my one-on-one pricing sometimes parents see it as quite steep. Um, So this pricing for this group is the best that I can give, the best I can give, which is gonna be 950, and I'm not gonna take it down again. But what the group will have is that there will be a level of confidentiality because the group has that anonymous tag, but I will be able to coach you through and coaching conversations based on that. At least it gives you a sense of being protected while you're being supported in particular ways. So I'll share more around this in terms of questions. Let me just check. That's true. Tribal kids are normally being raised by parents with untreated, unattended trauma. Um, Okay, perfect. So that's all I'm going to say for now. I'm going to share more about my format for the group, and then I'm going to just stay sharing that information. We do have retreats coming up. We do have one-on-one coaching. But the nice thing about this work now is that I'm not the only person in the team. There's team members now. So a lot of the work that I do will not be done by just me, but there's a whole bouquet of team members that are going to come in to support and to provide guidance. So we will do an intake for one-on-one coaching for teens, for our teen coaches, parents, and then me, who also do my own intake for East London because I'm based here now. So I'm gonna do an example of the activities and exercises for the next 7 days before I close off the group completely and only allow in signed members, and then nobody else after except for signed members only. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful day.